Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss a new interview with Rohan Campbell, who played Corey Cunningham in Halloween Ends. Variety conducted the interview, and Rohan revealed a lot of behind-the-scenes info regarding him playing the role of Corey. He even made some candid comments about what he was told by David Gordon Green and Jamie Lee Curtis regarding the character of Corey and the potential backlash they already anticipated from the fans with this new story direction. It's time to get into it. Let's go! So the interview in Variety was pretty extensive, but I will just be focusing on a couple of the sections in this video. So be sure you check out the full interview though on variety.com. All right, guys, the headline reads, "We need to talk about Corey. Halloween Ends star Rowan Campbell breaks down his pivotal role in the slasher finale." The article goes on to say, "David was so adamant on not having me on any press," Campbell tells Variety. "When Campbell was first circling the project, he had no clue that he was auditioning for a Halloween film, much less that he would be asked to play what is essentially the main character of the series' final entry. I'm like, well, let's see how I die in the opening of this movie. I'm a babysitter, which, when you read babysitter and Halloween, you're not making it past page 10. The 25-year-old actor laughs. "But I just kept flipping pages and it didn't stop. I realized Corey was the attachment point for the audience." Okay, so just to jump in for a moment, number one, I just want to comment on how David did not want him on any press. He was adamant about that. And this ties into the marketing approach they took for Halloween Ends, which was very focused on Laurie and Michael. We didn't see Corey in any of the marketing materials. We do in the trailers now. We see it as a character anyway. But even having said that, it was really focused on Michael and Laurie, which is one of the big complaints of the fandom, is that it was a bait and switch essentially, and that's a valid. That's a valid complaint because the marketing was very much built that way. We were all expecting it to be a Laurie and Michael showdown. Well, the mainstream general movie-going public is not those of us that are so much in the hardcore fans. Like we knew what was going on. They let us know the stuff was there, but your general mainstream movie-going person is not going to be digging through stuff. They're not going to be watching YouTube videos on these kind of things. So for them, so it was definitely calculated to kind of keep, this Corey role in the dark as far as the public goes before the film for the mainstream audience. And then number two, he makes an interesting statement when he said, "I realized Corey was the attachment point for the audience." And that is another thing that I think a lot of people took up issue with, was because we were anticipating, the fans were anticipating, our connection point is with Laurie, Allison, Hawkins, and even Lindsay. That's our attachment point for the audiences. That's where we're going to be anticipating going in to see, and and therefore when that doesn't happen, and we have this other character, this new character introduced to us as he said, the attachment point for us to connect onto in place of those those legacy characters that we all were expecting to see a bigger story on. For those that were, that is something that could be a source of disappointment. So it kind of adds a little bit of light, at least, into the thinking behind the scenes for Rowan and for David Gordon Green as well regarding the character. Now, the interview continues Christine is one of my favorite movies, Campbell shares. This is so Christine in a beautiful way. And, I was talking to Killjoy Jake, from the Lethal Collective, good friend, great channel, content creator. And I remember one of the first things he said about the movie when we talked about it was, he said, this was a great Christine. Like if I was going in for a Christine remake, this is great. Like it was done really well. And it's like a great interpretation of Christine. And even Rowan here is even saying how this is so Christine. He recognized it. And David Gordon Green told us a long time ago that Christine was a heavy influence. He was so nervous about it that he gave the script to John Carpenter because he was afraid it was too much Christine. But it really does feel like a Christine remake, requel. Well, not really requel, but really a remake in a lot of ways. But again, the majority of the fandom was expecting a Halloween movie because this is a Halloween franchise. It's a trilogy. And so I think a lot of people were really disappointed that they got more of a Christine movie than a Halloween movie. So just wanted to mention how it's interesting when you hear and see the cast members and others that are picking up on this as well as what we're picking up on. So it's not just us. It's the cast as well, like Rowan here. Now, building on how the story was from most people's expectations, Rowan addressed the romance and love story aspect of the central theme, because one of the big things I remember us saying when we came out of this was a tragic love story, essentially. And again, not exactly what we were, probably a lot of people were expecting from a Halloween movie. So Rowan says this, now let me get back to the article here. After Laurie introduces Allison to Corey, the pair of youngsters begin an impassioned, forbidden relationship. Some viewers have expressed confusion about a romance being a primary dramatic thrust in a Halloween film. The production was just as puzzled, according to Campbell. There were 3 weeks where the crew was so confused about what movie we were making. It was romance scene after romance scene. I was upstairs shooting an indie movie with Andy, a rooftop romance, while people were getting their tongues cut off downstairs, Campbell jokes. Now, I have to admit, these comments had me scratching my head a little bit. The crew was literally, who was making the movie, were confused about what the film was going to be. I'm like, oh man. This is kind of, I don't know that I would have even said this if I was Rowan Campbell in an interview like this. So it's just interesting, guys, of what it was like here with the story, with this romance scene. Apparently there's a lot of cut scenes we didn't get. There in one part of the article, Rowan mentions how he's talking about chocolate milk. David let the camera run for like 16 minutes. He's just mumbling about chocolate milk when he cut his hand. And they, of course, they didn't use any of that. But this is another situation where there were a lot of scenes filmed that are not in the movie with these romance scenes. And he says here the crew was confused. Like they didn't even know what we were doing at this point in time. And I just thought that was very telling again, that it's just kind of so un-Halloween. It really is different. It's a different movie. And finally, I leave you with the comments I talked about at the beginning. It's Rowan's comments regarding how David Gordon Green and Jamie Lee Curtis were preparing him for the coming backlash. And he says, you want to do it so bad as an actor, but it's really scary to step into this. You can't doubt yourself for a second, Campbell says. When David offered me the role, he was like, I need you to know that a lot of people are going to really, really, really not be happy with what we're choosing to do here. You'll probably hear a lot of that. Jamie Lee Curtis reached out and said the same thing. Now, what I want to say right now is, number one, I think Rowan Campbell did an amazing job with the character he was given. The character of Corey, I think he absolutely did great. Personally, I enjoyed all the acting performances. I've said that before. I loved everyone's performance. I thought that was a great performance of the actors with what they had to work with. So what I'm going to talk about now, I just have to say this. This one bothers me more than any of it, because my question is, why make a movie for the fans when you already know a lot of the fan base will not be happy with your story? I don't understand this, guys. Now, I've said right that from the beginning that I'm right in the middle on this movie, right? I'm a 5 out of 10. So I'm one of those fans that's in the middle. All right, right in the middle. So I don't have any skin in the game trying to make a point of one way or the other. I'm in the middle. But no matter how you feel about this, whether you don't like it, or if you're in the middle with me, or if you really love it, whatever the case is, that's fine. But where my issue is not in how we like it or dislike it. It's that it's hard for me to let David Gordon Green off the hook for writing a story and making a movie that in his own mind, not anybody else's, his own mind, he feels or felt a lot of the fan base will really, really, really not be happy with the movie. You see, that this is where my problem is, because it's one thing for a writer to write a movie that he really thinks the fans will like. He thinks it's a really great Halloween story. And he's like, man, I really think they're going to like it. And you make that movie and you try to make it where it pleases the fandom and it lives up to the legacy of the franchise. And for some reason it ends up failing, right? It just doesn't land. That's unfortunate, but at least you can say, well, he did what he really tried to do, what he thought was good for the franchise and the fandom, what they would like to see. But to intentionally make a movie that in your heart of hearts, in your own mind as a writer, that much of the fan base will not be happy with, that's a totally different story. And honestly, very puzzling to me. I can't make logical sense out of that, other than to say either he just really was going to make this love story or whatever. He wanted to make this movie no matter what, or there were other writers that were brought this into it, and therefore they got the upper hand in the writing room, and they were going to put it in no matter what. I don't know all of that. No one ever probably will. But I just want to bring this up because it just bugs me to know that he thought this movie was not going to make a lot of people happy, and he made it anyway. And last I heard them saying that they're making these movies for the fans. They're making these movies for the fans, and so that they'll have something that they love. And it puzzles me why you would make a movie if you thought, as a writer, man, the majority of the fan base is not going to like this. They're really, really, really not going to like it. And then Jamie Lee Curtis comes out and says it's going to make so many people angry. I'm just like, I don't understand that, guys. I'm just kind of at a loss for words with that. So do with that as you wish. Let that settle in. I'll be curious to see what you guys think about it. And in fact, I do want to know what do you think about these comments that Rowan made, and about how David Gordon Green did this movie knowing in his mind, feeling it rather than his mind, that it was going to make a lot of people very unhappy. But he did it anyway. That's what I want to know. What do you think about that? I want to hear your opinions, your thoughts, ideas, and any feelings you have about that. So start leaving your comments in the comments section below so we can talk about it and discuss it in the comments section. Well, guys, that's going to be it for this update, but I'll be back soon with more Halloween ends and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.